Good evening, everyone. It's our pleasure to welcome everyone in attendance today to ITW Primetime, a brand new online series hosted by ITW Consulting. ITW Primetime will be a series of live sessions with athletes, industry heads, and other influencers relevant to the business of sport. As a firm, we've always endeavored to be an industry pioneer, and these sessions intend to further showcase our commitment to the world of sport, sportspersons, and our deep connection with them. Our sessions will be interactive, so we implore all our viewers to send as many questions in the question and answer box that is provided by Zoom. We will get back to answering these questions by the end of the session. Our first guest today, Shri Harika Dronaveli, is someone who needs no introduction. Harika is a Padma Shri and Arjuna Award recipient and ranks in the top 10 in the Women's World's Chess Rankings, having ranked as highly as number 5. She is the second Indian woman to ever achieve the title of Grandmaster, which is the highest honor in chess, and is only one of 37 women in the world who currently hold this prestigious title. Hailing from a small town, Gorantala, in Guntur, Andhra Pradesh, Harika's journey to the top of the chess world has been inspirational and full of life lessons. We hope to be able to draw as much learning from her experiences today. And without further ado, introducing Miss Harika.
Thank you, Ashwin, for the lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here to share my experiences and a couple of stories from my journey. I hope you and we all will have some good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get straight into it, Harika. So the first thing we want to talk about a little bit is about you yourself. Before we talk a little bit more about all your achievements and all of that, what was your initial introduction to chess? And in terms of who were your biggest influences chess-wise, which is your parents, your family, as well as non-chess, as well as chess-wise, which you've mentioned, like the likes of Grandmaster Vishwanathan Anand and all of that. So if you can sort of talk about your introduction to this, to the game, and what was the point where you thought this is going to be my career for the rest of my life?
Sure. So basically, my family, we are not from sports background at all, but my father was very much interested into sports. Like he used to play in university level, like many sports he tried. So he was so much in love with them, but we never thought that I would be here. So we never even expected us to go and explore in sports. But randomly for my sister, just to teach her patience, they started chess for her. And as a young child, I wanted to see why they're not teaching me and why only my sister. So I just tried to learn what they're trying to teach her. And then we realized that I was doing really, really well. And that was shocking for us. And that's when we decided, let's try it some more. And when I played my first nationals, just for experience or for fun, I did extremely well. And that is when we felt that there is some future in this. And after that, we didn't have any other choice. I was doing well. My parents were supporting, and I was trying my best to do well in each tournament. And that's how I came into chess. But I think the major decision was my parents. At that time, it was not very, very usual thing to go into sports. So it was not so easy. But for them, all they saw is I had a natural talent in it, and they just tried to encourage that. And then I was very lucky to get a very good coach on time, because it was very important. My parents, though they know that we wanted to pursue this, but they didn't know what to do, where to start. So we needed that guidance. And I got a very, very dedicated coach, to say. So he used to feel bad if I would lose. So that is the connection we all had as a team. So my parents, my coach, and all we tried to do is to win each and every tournament. So that's how I came into chess. And then I didn't look back after that.
Right. So it was a very, very early stage of your life. And you mentioned your parents all having such a big part of your involvement in the field of chess. But something that we wanted to talk to you about, considering the early age in which you started chess, and it's something that you've mentioned in interviews and in your TED Talk as well, where you spoke about the immense pressure and anxiety that you would feel as a child growing up. Naturally, you were so young, you were competing in the highest level all over the world, so far from home. And you would mention that there were a lot of moments when you were like really confused and really struggled with that anxiety and with all of those stresses of like modern world. And it's something, a lot of young children today are facing similar sort of stress in their life. If you look at competitive exams, the scores keep going higher and higher. And similarly, athletes as well, the age in which athletes are sort of getting involved in sports is slowly coming down. So as somebody like you who started off so early and went through all the mental and emotional stress that comes along with this, what advice would you give to people? And if you can talk a little bit about your journey and how you sort of overcame those stresses early on.
Sure. First, I'll tell you the story, whatever I told in TED Talk and other platforms. So basically, for me, I was like top 3 student, like in school also. I was always competitive. And even when I entered chess, I was doing extremely well, more than our expectations. So it was all like good. Like even my failure, which I always say, like my first world championship, my failure was to get silver medal. So that was my failure. So always I had this trophy or somewhere on top, somewhere trying to be on top. So I was 9 and we went to a tournament which was under 15, much higher than my standard, much higher. But somehow we had this in back of my mind that we are going there to win it, because okay, we performed well in world championship, world under 10, and then next is under 15 nationals, we would win that. So we went with all energy, in like, with all the expectations. Then once I reached there, I did extremely bad. And that was like a big shocker for me, because until then I never saw failures from so close by. So for me, it felt like, the world was shattering. This is the end of it. I could see disappointed faces of my mother, my coach. They were upset. And I would say, like, they never scolded me. I never had problems. I was always given my freedom, but I could see their disappointed faces. And somewhere I wasn't used to it. For me, it was all about like going there and winning something. And when I didn't get anything, that felt like this is the end of it. This is over. And I mean, now it feels so funny and stupid, but that time it was like a very big thing for me. So it was hard. It was hard to understand. I had like I think I still remember this because I had a very deep impact on myself. The failure, the horrible thoughts, and this feeling. So it was hard. Then one tournament passed by, and then next tournament came up. I did well. So that's when I came to the realization that it's okay to fail. It's not end of the world. It's really not as I thought. So that's when the realization started for me. Once the first failure has actually taught me so much that still I have a story to tell everyone. That's how I see it now. And I'm always vocal about it because I know there could be many kids like me who could be foolish enough to think that this is the end of it. This is just, these thoughts are like now might be really funny. For me, the biggest pain that time, if I say, was I was promised to take to this amusement park if I win the tournament. And for me, I felt horrible that I couldn't do it. That was my biggest problem back then. So this could be very silly, but I think if we start speaking about it, you will understand more. And for the kids, like, we try to learn things, we try to observe, we try to learn so much that we don't speak about what we feel. So I think that is the reason I try to be vocal, because it was such a stupid feeling that maybe there are some other kids who can take some story to learn from mine. So that's the reason I always try to tell. Nothing is end of it. Like, that is the silliest thing I could feel. The failure can end my whole world. And after that, now I'm here because of many of my failures. Many failures that I faced. So that is the reason I always tell that failure is really a big path for your success. And that has taught me so many things, I would say not even success could do. So that's why I always say, just try to speak with someone if you feel, that is the end of it, so you lost something and there is no, future for it. It is very important to understand that nothing is as big as it. You just need to understand it could be the very silliest thing. So for kids at that age, I think it's very important to have someone to speak. If someone can say this to to them that, this is not end of it. There is so much to do. This is just the beginning. So that is the reason I always tell this topic, because I want to reach out to the kids who might use my experience and understand.
Absolutely. And that's what I think is really important where you would share something like this, Harika, because you mentioned at that age, you thought, oh, it's all be all and end all. And look at how much you've achieved since, just thanks to that ability of yours to understand that, okay, this is not the end of life. You had such a great support system around yourself. And I think that's great advice to young people in today's world, is surround yourself with people that you're comfortable talking to. Just ensure that everything is sort of laid out in front of you, so you yourself will realize how small some problems that you think in your head are so
Some
big.
problem is, yes, true. Because I mean, for kids, it's like beginning. You learn so much. You have to learn failures too. And I'm very glad that I learned. I mean, now it might look as simple that how can I expect myself to win like under 15 and think that is a failure? But the goal can be, I think, because of my higher level goals, I could reach here. So it's always important to learn the failure, to learn to understand that failure is really, really good thing. I always say this, failure is really good thing. If you are failing, it means that you are somewhere on the road to success, somewhere you are taking the steps. And I think that's what I will always suggest from my experience.
Okay, that's an amazing lesson to take, Harika. So moving on to another thing, you were talking about learning and all of that, and you've obviously learned so much over the course of your career and your life, but amazingly, you stopped attending formal school at the age of 13. And right now, in the world, we're all going through a little bit of a downtime. A lot of children are not being able to attend school. A lot of people are being stuck at home. And at the same time, it's also coincided with a lot of platforms that sort of specialize in self-learning. And that's something that I think you're an expert in. You've also spoken about how you feel as though your experiences of traveling, meeting so many people from so many diverse backgrounds has taught you far more than any book can, right? So my question and the sort of prompt that we want this next topic to be is sort of how you would encourage young people to do the same in this time, especially when a lot of people are being stuck at home and they're not able to learn in the typical conventional ways of school. What were some tips that you picked up during your journey that you think could help young people just sort of improve their learning, and at the same time adults as well, like anybody who's trying to learn on their own without the help of a teacher, without the help of just trying to learn from life experiences? If you can talk a little bit about that. And it's something that you've been really proud of, to share the fact that you've been really, really well equipped to face the world because of what you've learned on the job almost.
Yes. So when I gave up on education in the beginning, the decision was very natural for us because I was doing extremely well. I was women grandmaster at very early age. I was like, I gained all my international master norms. It was very big back then, but then the news, maybe because the social media was not as active as now, it was not known, but it was very big achievement back then. I won so many medals, so many titles, that for us it came out naturally to try and invest time on chess more, so that we could achieve our highest goal to become world champion. As a whole team, my family, my coach, everyone, for us it was always about winning our highest goal. So it came out very naturally to give up studies and to concentrate more on chess. But then I would say it was hard. It was hard because there was time when I traveled alone, and there would be like kids surrounded, they would be speaking about subjects and which I wouldn't know. Even now I don't feel shy to say that I don't know many basics in the education. So I used to feel very embarrassed little bit that at that point of time, I was very young and everyone was saying something which I don't know. And I was even very conscious about my English and my languages, how I would sound, how they would judge me. So it was all in my brain, going on. I wanted to prove myself that it was not a bad decision. So I would say around 17 or 18 years, I decided I wanted to improve my English more and more. I didn't have much time to join any classes because I used to travel a lot. Because I used to play age group tournaments. I used to play in men tournaments. I used to play in women tournaments because I was into Indian team when I was 13. So I used to play all these and my whole year used to be packed. But I wanted to prove myself that, it wasn't a bad decision. I wanted to fit in this world. I wanted to fit in this, that I also know I can speak, I can do everything. So I used to like literally take a book. I was embarrassed back then, to write the basics of English. I started from the beginning. I used to write my own book, learning from my own like books or like YouTube or internet or everywhere. So everywhere I used to read. I used to listen to English interviews. I used to read and make words of it. I used to carry that 1 kg book everywhere I traveled. So I used to do all these things. I always tried to learn something. Then later on, I realized it isn't a big deal. Even if I make mistakes, it's okay. Now, what I do is when I make mistakes, I learn from it, I accept it. And that is the realization I got from self learning, that it is okay to do mistakes. There is nothing to feel embarrassed. It's always a subject that you would like to learn. And for me, education is something like I feel I'm educated in a different subject. I didn't go to school, but I traveled and met many people. I learned myself. I learned how to handle myself. I've taken a decision to travel alone at the age of 13. I told my father, I don't want anyone. I need to travel alone, because I could see that it's hard for my dad to every time, like instead of 2 people, I can get like 2 trips. So I decided for myself that I wanted to travel alone for all the tournaments, and only for important ones I took my company person. So I got this decision making. I learned it in a very practical way. I might not know subjects, but I know the subjects which I studied. I tried to learn languages. I learned Hindi by speaking with people. I tried to, at least like whatever English I learned as on my own. So I feel very satisfied and complete, because whatever I carved myself in my own way. It could be little, it could be more, it could be high, it could be small, but at least I did on my own way. And it gives immense pleasure, to say this, that I tried, and it might be successful, it might not be, but at least I tried something I liked. And chess is my education, and chess, my degrees are Arjuna Award and Padma Shri Award. So this is what I always say. At some point, I was embarrassed to say, that I'm not studying. But later on, I realized if I do that, there could be many young kids who might take a wrong decision. I wanted to tell that it is okay. If you decide that, it is okay. You can take a different decision than others. It's okay. And this is also it's an education system that I had, but a bit different from all other kids. So I definitely learned this. And even in this lockdown, I started learning Russian, because I wanted to make use of this time other than chess. So I started learning Russian. Maybe a bit of it, I'm doing everything on my own. So what I would suggest is, it's something you should first try to find your own interest on something. It's not like, how many like even like 1 hour, if you do with whole heart, it makes a lot of difference. So I feel it's important for the kids to love what they're doing, to understand what they want, and to even go into the subject they love the most. And I think that is what I suggest, because once they get this interest and passion, they will do everything on their own. So that's what I would suggest everyone.
Absolutely, Harika. So to summarize it, sort of be open-minded, follow your passion, and it will give you great rewards. Like you said, you have 2 great degrees that very few universities can bestow, the Arjuna and the Padma Shri, upon many people. So it's a real testament to your achievement in your own field. And I think that's something that everyone can extract from that answer, is that as long as you're passionate, as long as you're working towards what you want to achieve in life, there's really no set plan or set pattern that
I'm not glorifying that I gave up on education or something. All I'm saying is, at that point, that was a very important decision for my career as a chess player, which I took, which is okay. That's all what I always want to voice out, that it's okay. Like, it depends on each person, each family, what they want to do, and it's okay whatever decision they take. All it is important is to have that passion and to work hard towards it.
Absolutely. And that's something, so we'll move a little bit more into a little bit of a different topic. And, we've mentioned, we've spoken about being young and like the pressures that come along with all of that. But another big pressure that's maybe unwarrantedly put on top of you is the pressure of being a woman athlete in our country. you have achieved as much as you can possibly achieve in the field of chess. And yet there's a little bit more of a pressure put on top of a woman athlete as opposed to a male athlete in this country because of how little opportunities there have been in the past. But it has been improving. And the fact that you and Miss Hampi Koneru are the first two Indians to achieve the title of Grandmaster is an incredible achievement. So if you can talk a little bit more about that, of what you feel like, do you feel like it's a bigger responsibility on your shoulders to have achieved so much as a woman athlete? And what do you feel the advice you want to give young girls out there to tell them that there's absolutely nothing that they can't achieve if they set their mind out to, irrespective of their gender, what country they come from, any of that?
To be frank, I never felt like, that being women athlete, I had more pressure. I really never felt it. In fact, I have seen in our country, we get like so much love for women athletes. So I don't see it that way. But I think the major difference could be, like people say, after marriage or like after kids, it might be difficult. That's what I've been heard saying, that's what I've been always told, that, it's difficult after that. It's not so easy. But I think now this generation is changing that to some extent. And we are trying to, make career also as important as family. So this is something I would always say for anyone. But other than that, just being women athlete in India, I don't think I had any additional pressure for that. But all I would say is it's very much possible even after marriage. And I've seen people even after kids who are doing extremely well. All it takes is the way you see it, how much you want to do it. So if you really, really want to do something, whatever the situation is, you will find a way. So I would say all the girls, whichever age, whatever the situation, even married, even with kids, even if you are trying new passion, it's always important to believe in yourself. You have to first believe to even try for it. You have to believe there will be failures. You just can't give up. All you have to do is get up and again work on it. So I would say just to first understand what you want to do and set your goals and work towards it. It doesn't matter whether the result come now or later, but all I would say is just keep trying.
Absolutely, Harika. And I think that's an amazing point you made about how in the past a woman's role was always looked at to be a mother, all of that. And right now, you just got married recently. Big congratulations on that. But more than that, you've been able to easily compartmentalize your career. And that's something that moving forward, all young girls should really strive for that. And finally, on a little bit of a lighter note, I don't know if you've watched that Queen's Gambit, the Netflix show.
Yes.
A lot of comments, a lot of people are comparing you to the saying it's a young girl who's come from all the way on her own from the start all the way till the grandmaster stage. So on that topic, actually, Harika, amazingly, that series has raised the profile of chess all over the world during this last year or so. It's really made people come back to the sport. The sale of chess sets has flown all over the world. So as somebody, who's literally reached the top of the field in the sport, what do you think the future of the sport holds in our country, in the world? Like, where do you see the sport going in the future? And maybe you can just talk a little bit for the sake of the fans about the show and what your take on the show was, considering everyone is really eager to hear about your review of the show.
Yeah, sure. I saw it actually. I saw it, and I love the chess part because that is something I can relate to. But the rest of the fiction, I would say I didn't like get connected to it so much. But I was very happy the way they showed chess, and that is exactly like how chess players' life used to be in the older times. And I was very glad that people are getting connected to it. I was very happy when people were like saying this to me and, messaging me that we saw Queen's Gambit, Sicilian Defense. It's really, it feels very good as a chess player, definitely. But for me, I've seen my sport always on high note. So this isn't surprising for me. I was sure that I think at some point there was a time when they used to chess is not even a sport because we were playing on the board. I even heard these kind of comments. It used to somewhere hurt me. And it used to somewhere say, feel protective about my sport. I would always say, it's not easy. It's very, very hard. The training part is so hard in chess. It's not at all easy. And, even the sweat won't be shown. It's even worse. We can't even tell, prove that how much we're working. So definitely from coming from that way, long way, it feels really good that things are changing. But I was always expecting this. I was always sure that one day chess will be so high, it will get its due. I always believe that every sport or everything has a time. And I was just waiting for the time, and I was trying to do my bit to contribute to my sport. But I always believed that, I think, and I still believe there is much longer future. I am not happy with whatever it is now. I always feel there is much higher things that chess can do. So I'm glad that it's maybe this is the starting point of it, that people are getting connected to it. I understand it's very complicated for them to understand it, but I hope they can get connected to it more and more in future. And I hope they get to enjoy chess even more than now.
That's amazing, Harika. So now we can move into the questions. We've been getting a lot of questions. And so the first one is from a person called Abhinav. He says he will be completing his class 12 soon, and he will be going into studying engineering. And he's very passionate about chess, and he wants to know what he must do to manage chess and studies. He wants to reach an ELO of 2000. So if you can give him some advice, which is a pretty high number, if I'm not wrong.
Definitely 2000 is okay. You can like manage even now. Like, I wouldn't say becoming grandmaster would be easy from now, but 2000 is always, if this is your goal, you can always reach it. All you have to do is manage both. You can have whatever little time you're investing on chess, you should just be focused and understand where the path is going. You should try to use your time wisely, to see both, to play tournaments. And also it's not difficult. There are so many people who did it. All you have to is have that vision that you can do it. Once you understand that you can, you will start finding ways to reach there. So definitely, if he works hard, like in both ways, managing the time, he should definitely reach there.
Right. Thank you so much, Harika. Next question is from an anonymous source. So chess typically helps players in decision-making, problem solving. Is there a particular skill in real life where you feel like your chess experience has helped you in terms of whether it's like certain decision you've had to make, in terms of certain problems that you faced in life, and you feel like learnings that you sort of have gotten from your vast experience in chess have helped you?
I don't know, because chess has been part of my life since beginning. I really cannot differentiate between what is chess and what is life, or how it changed me. But all I can say is it taught me patience. It really taught me that, like, I can be very patient now, and I can really, if I want, I would say if I want, I can be. So that is something I learned from the sport. I would say, other than that, really, I cannot differentiate, because this has been part of my life since the beginning.
All your life learnings and chess learnings have almost merged together to the point
Yes,
of
yes,
just one
yes.
big learning experience for you.
Yes.
That's all awesome. So we'll just move to the last question. We have a couple more. So how do you keep your chess interesting and engaging, especially at this time, when you've not been able to travel as much, attend as many tournaments? I think a lot of the excitement will come from, the interaction with like people playing in all these big arenas. And over the last year and a half, we haven't really been afforded the opportunity to do that. So what ways have you found to keep yourself interested and keep yourself motivated and engaged to train?
So for us, chess has changed so much from the year we started. Now there's so much of computers. We have to work a lot on computers. We have to be up to date. But because of this lockdown, I got so much time. I could actually sit on board and enjoy my chess like from like old times. Just read books, learn from books, like keep playing on the board with the help of the books, and understand new things, see classic games, and all this. There is so much that I could do in this one year, because there is no pressure that, there is a tournament coming up, I have to do this, I have to do that, because it's like too much. When you play a tournament, you have to be up to date in the openings. You have to work a lot on openings, and also at the same time be good and sharp in middle game, and to revise your end games. So now there is no pressure. So you can just sit and enjoy. You can just try to make use of this time without wasting it, and try to learn more and more. So there is no end for it. I just try to, just enjoy chess on the board without any pressure, without any like a date, that this is the date I have to finish my work. There is nothing like that. So I enjoyed more than before in this lockdown, I would say.
Okay, that's awesome. One last question is a little bit more, it's almost trivia question. What was your fastest victory in the World Championship? In how many moves do you remember clearly?
No, in World Championship, I wouldn't say it's easy to remember because no one will
Right,
blender.
right.
You
You won't
won't
win
get
a
hit
quick
so
game.
easily.
So
Yeah,
in any major tournament, what was the quickest game that you remember? Have you ever mated someone in a 3, 4 moves like that? Like something
it's impossible. It's impossible to
at
mate in
that
4, 5
level?
minutes in the level
Right,
we are playing.
right.
But I really don't remember because I actually have this record. I play long games. I play like 7 hours, 6 hours. I'm like a very solid slow player. I happily
Okay.
like I don't kill opponent in one go. I'll just like slowly, happily, peacefully play. Somewhere, sometime I win. So I always have like really long games of 6 hours, 7 hours. So I don't really remember my shortest game or something.
So
Most maybe maximum in 1 hour I must have won some game, but for the level we play, it's impossible to win in 3, 4 moves.
fair enough. So you're not playing like how people are playing their younger sibling and beating your. So on Converse, do you remember your longest game, Harika? What was the time that the longest game that you played? Do you remember that?
Yes, there was a time when I started playing around 3 and I finished my game around 10:30.
Okay, wow.
And then next day I have a game, like a very serious game. So I had to come back and then quickly have dinner and just sleep off and then next day to prepare and play. So that's why I remember this, like around from 3 to 10:30 or something I played.
Okay, that's about it. And I think with that, we've come to a conclusion of the questions. And I think, yeah, so we've pretty much covered everything that we needed to cover. Harika, if there's anything you'd like to add. And I think from the behalf of our company, we'd like to thank you immensely for doing this. This was our first session, and we really couldn't have asked for a better athlete, for a better guest than you. So really, really appreciative of that. And if you have any closing comments on your own.
Thanks for inviting me because I'm also a person who enjoys like sharing my experiences and to try to inspire. Maybe even if I can help one person, that would make me really happy. So thanks for giving me this opportunity, and I hope some of you could really like use my experiences in some way.
Yeah, awesome. So I think we'll just end it with maybe a small slideshow of all of your uh with just a
Sure.
yeah, so we can just go through these pictures if there's anything you like to. So I think this was the day you actually won the Padma Shri,
Yes.
which
It was very important because I couldn't take my Arjuna award also by myself because I was in a world championship.
okay.
So Padma Shri award is the first award which I could actually dress up, go and like take my own award and enjoy it. So I really like this is one of my memorable days.
Right, and this is you getting the award right there. So anyway, so we'll just also maybe an amazing picture of you from 21 years ago.
This is the time all of us were upset that I lost gold medal. I got silver medal. This was my first international tournament, but inside as a child I was still not as sad as my parents because I was like holding a trophy, beautiful trophy. Somewhere inside I was trying to show that I was very sad, but somewhere I was happy with my medal and my trophy. So this is from them.
And you played the final of the tournament, right? I think that would have been an amazing to win the silver medal. It would have been such a great journey for you to go all the way till that last stage of the tournament. So that's
Yeah, because that is my first international tournament. That was my first tournament I have ever played outside. So
okay.
as a child, it was very important. The trophy. It was so beautiful. That is something which helped me to even go further.
That's awesome, Harika. So, and just maybe one quick explanation of what this picture, what is the story behind this?
So this is my third world championship, the third bronze medal world championship. I went into Armageddon. Armageddon is like after some like massive of 10 games or something. Still we were on tie with different time controls. So we get to play Armageddon, which with toss they decide which color, and my opponent won the toss, and she has chosen black. So with white, I have to win the game for sure. If I make a draw, it's like my opponent will be qualified for the finals. So that is the time I was clearly winning. I was like I would say a very basic level of winning game, but we were playing on seconds. I was playing with 1 minute. She was playing on 10 seconds. That was a beautiful opportunity I missed. I after like 15 or 16 days of long struggle in Iran with the scarf and everything, I was playing like, all alone there. So it was after all the struggle, I lost my semi-finals. And that was the moment when I realized it's all over. So this is that moment exactly which I was captured with all the emotions. I was just like when I lost the game.
I think on that note, we'll end it with that. We hope that very, very soon you will bring a world championship back, and this third place is just the start of an amazing, amazing future for you. So we're all excited to see what exactly what more honor you're going to bring to our country. And I think with that, we'll end our first session. So thank you so much,
Thank
Harika.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the people who've attended today. And we will definitely be back with another great session like this for you guys to consume in the future. So thank you, Harika. We'll see you soon.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.